Okay, I'm ready whenever you guys are.
Do you need us to? Thank you again for being here. This is James Jones. Mr. Jones is originally from Miami, Florida. When he was just 23 years old, he was charged with 3 others in a federal case out of the Northern District of West Virginia as part of a cocaine distribution conspiracy. He was sentenced to a significant amount of time, a total sentence of 25 years. He did 22 years in the Bureau of Prisons. At the time he was sentenced, the longest term of jail sentence that he had done was just 17 months. He was convicted following a trial on 2 924C counts, so he had a mandatory term of imprisonment of 25 years. And since he has been released from his term of incarceration, he is now a contractor for a company called Darfo. So he goes into restaurants and make sure that the fires in those different restaurants are maintained. He's responsible for all of the different restaurants at the MGM Casino in National Harbor, which is about 15 different restaurants. And he also has his own business called Reliable Cleaning. And among other things, he delivers propane tanks, removes bulk trash, and he is a trash valet. And he wanted to speak here today to talk about his journey, how he got from where he was when he was just 23 years old to where he is today. He also spent about 5 months in a halfway house in West Virginia, and he's now interested in starting a nonprofit for purposes of mentoring and reaching out to others who may be in his shoes, in the shoes that he was in when he was younger. So at this time we'd like to introduce Mr. Jones, and he's going to speak for just a little bit, and then we'll open the floor to any questions. And I know our law interns, Sarah and Adrian, have already have a number of questions for you, Mr. Jones. Yeah, and so thank you again for coming. We really appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
Oh, I'd also like to welcome Lisa Lent from the Federal Defender's Office, and she will be chiming in with any questions as well, and anything she can add to assist telling Mr. Jones's story. All right, Mr. Jones, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is my first time, so please bear with me on it. I want to thank you for allowing me this opportunity to actually speak and actually have a meeting of the minds, and hopefully we can clear up a lot of misconceptions or conceptions of the system and the prisoner, how we view things, how you view things. As for myself, as she's explained, I've done 25 years. I started my life of crime, not proud of it, in the 80s. In the late 80s, I came to Washington, D.C. from Miami, Florida, where I'm originally from, and started a drug conspiracy in Southeast Washington, D.C. It branched out to West Virginia, among other places. During that process, you know, I was arrogant. You know, thought I knew everything, thought I had all the answers, thought I was untouchable, which normally all prisoners do, or people in my position do. I later learned through practical experience that the great arm of the law does catch up with you and reel you back in at some point. It done it to me on August 31st, 1994. At that point, I was taken to West Virginia to be prosecuted, Martinsburg, West Virginia particularly. Set in the county jail. At the time of going to the county, let me go back. At the time of going to the county jail, I was not a high school graduate. I didn't have a GED, I didn't have anything. But still thought I knew everything. For some reason, I don't know how I come to that conclusion, but I thought I knew everything. I went into the system, and at first I was bitter, upset, because I was given a 35-count indictment for 3 other people. I felt like my life was over. You know, at that point, I was not going to get out of prison. You know, I'm looking at this indictment, I'm 23, and the plea bargains that were offered to me initially were like 30 years, 35 years, and I'm saying to myself, hey, I've lived a long 23 years of this life so far, and you want to give me 30 years? You know, I couldn't see myself taking that. Of course, I rejected the plea bargains. had some difficulties with communicating with lawyers, or because I'm bitter, I'm upset. I was the problem, to be honest with you. You know, I was the problem. And the communications always cause a breakdown in the relationships, which caused us to, you know, separate at some point. After 3 attorneys, I went to trial, was convicted of 29 of the 35 counts, multiple gun counts as well as drug counts, 924C, 922G, straw purchasing, drug counts as well. Spent, after I got convicted, of course I was angry with the lawyer, you know, so I got rid of him.
Was a retained lawyer, right?
Yes. All of the first lawyers I had, 3 different lawyers starting out. All of those were private attorneys. They were not public defenders. So take that bad cloud off of the public defender's office. All retained lawyers. And after conviction, again 29 counts. My minimum guideline was 1,380 months. I had several drug counts, which was all grouped together, and I had 5 924C counts, which were consecutive or not involved in that. So it was 85 years for the 924C counts and 30 years for the drug conspiracy. That was my minimum guideline sentence. Maximum being life plus 85. Again, I'm in jail. My journey doesn't start at this point of my transformation journey. Let me say it that way. It doesn't start at that point because I'm even bitter now. So I'm in jail and I'm doing what knuckleheads do in jail. You know, I'm fighting, arguing with the guards, or whatever. My new attorneys, I petitioned the court for a new attorney. It was several months before I heard back from her. But what she did was she appointed the public defender's office to me. At that point, they came to me and they sat down with me and they done something completely different than what all the retained attorneys done. They sat down with me, they heard me out. They asked me to present documentation for anything that I wanted them to do. I couldn't just come to them and say, hey, what about this, what about that? I have to bring supporting documentation to them to show my position, which we, you know, initially I thought was, oh, they just trying to make me, use up my time doing this so they can focus on the case. But that wasn't the case at all. They actually wanted me to be involved, and they wanted me to come with something that actually had substance, opposed to just coming like every other prisoner. Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? So after doing that, that's when my transformation changed, because I realized how inadequate I was to assist them in fighting for my life. You know, I want them to pull off this great miraculous, excuse me for a second. I want to pull off a miraculous miracle, but I was not able to help them in doing so. And I was the best person to help them because I was the one that lived it. A lot of the facts they didn't know. A lot of the people they didn't know. I had to provide them with information. So that's when I initially went and got my GED. Got in GED class, took my GED. Of course, after that, it's law. So my next thing was to take a paralegal course so I can understand the system, understand the rules. Not to try to take over their job, but just to understand and be able to help them. I took that, and then my journey of education just kept going and going and going and going. I got into Unicor. I don't know if some might be familiar with that. It's a program as well. A lot of people don't know it's a program. It's a job for people in prison, but it's a program. It instills discipline, work skills, ethics into us, because we had to be on time going to work, and it was one of the highest paid jobs in there. That job also afforded us the opportunity to give us grants to further our education. So I utilized that, and that's when I took sex and drug counseling. I also took accounting and bookkeeping. I stayed in USP Atlanta. Was my first destination, maximum security prison in Atlanta. I stayed there for 9 years. A lot of the staff there, initially when I went in, again, I wasn't as bitter, but I still had some resentment toward the system and toward staff or anybody dealing with the Department of Justice. At that point, you were my enemy. So I went in, and after then, people started seeing me wanting to better myself, they started helping me. Stayed in Atlanta for 9 years. I'm not getting in no trouble, so my security level has dropped. I was a low security inmate inside of a maximum security prison, but I didn't want to leave because of the resources that I had there, the programs that they had there, the people that was there that made the difference. You know, yes, I was around heinous things that happen all the time inside of prison, but I stayed on I stayed focused and stayed on my goals. So I was able to get out of there, and I went from a maximum security to a low security prison in Yazoo, Mississippi. I stayed there. There I learned photography, what this gentleman was doing. I was in Unicor again. I was the shipping and receiving clerk. We made bulletproof vests for the Army. That's what we did. That was the product that we made. I've done that for about 5 years. I taught a few classes, continued my education, got my apprenticeship for custodial maintenance there. After that, again, the staff was very helpful. I have to commend the staff because they were very helpful everywhere I went, not just one institution. They, in turn, after I stayed there and depleted all of their programs, they in turn helped me get to Ashland, Kentucky, which had a welding class. A welding, I can get certified as a welder with actual apprenticeship. And they specifically called and had me designated to that destination in order to take that program. Of course, I completed the program. Upon completing that, I signed up for the religious program, which is an 18 months program with all different religions involved in the program. You get a chance to learn about everybody's religion, so it won't be, you know, I think the goal is to try to make everybody realize no religion is better than other religion. I did that, completed that, then I came home. Some of the questions, I'm going to answer some of your questions inside this. Some of the questions were, what made me want to do a business? I think that entrepreneurship was something that was always in me. Regardless if we realize it as prisoners, it takes more work. I'm not going to say more work. I'm going to say it takes just as hard work to run a drug enterprise or break a law that it does to actually work a job. You know, myself, I was traveling from Miami to Washington, D.C. and other areas, so I had to find a way to get my drugs from there to here. Counter surveillance for anybody who wants to rob, counter surveillance for the police, duck the police, do accounting skills, count money, you know, buying this, buying demand. So it was actually the entrepreneur aspect of me, why I wanted a business it was always in me. It's just that I chose the wrong business. So after being in prison for a while, I started dealing and doing a different thing caused me to be around different people. I sought out different people. And they were giving me different ideas business-wise and pushing me and motivating me. And I started drafting plans. The bad part about drafting plans in prison and being in prison for a long period of time is you lose actual sense of what's in demand in the outside. So I couldn't really say, this is what I want to do when I come home. I never would have thought I would have been delivering propane. I never would have thought that I would be a trash valet or a supervisor at MGM. You know, those things were things that I never thought of. You know, I went with the traditional prisoner's idea of businesses, which is truck driving, things that allows us to do it without the hindrance of our background. I at one time wanted to open up, and I'm still going to do that, forklift certification school, where people that comes out can actually get certified from that, and in the process I can contact different companies and let them know, hey, I have some certified people that would like jobs. So that's some of the things I want to do. But when I came home in 2015, December the 7th, 2015, I came home, went to the halfway house in Woodland, West Virginia. Because of the help from the staff and the inside, because of the help from my family, who were starting to believe in me because they see me doing something different. I was able to seek and gain employment prior to getting out of prison. What I did was I did my resumes and had my family send them to staffing agencies in the area where I was going and had a point of contact before getting out. I got out and went to the staffing agency and they had me a job. I set it off, held it off until that Sunday. I came on Tuesday, that Sunday, because I wanted to get my affairs in order. So I started working, asked about mentoring programs, so I did a little mentoring while I was in the halfway house as well. Went to a group home called Samaritan in Woodland, West Virginia, and dealt with some of the troubled boys because it was a boys' home. There was some of the trouble boys, and always was working on my plan of what I thought I wanted to do, you know, because again, I never thought I would be doing this. Shortly after being in the halfway, did 5 months and 26 days in the halfway house. Worked 2 jobs while I was in the halfway house. So I tried to always stay busy, active, and save money. Started building my credit in the halfway house. Got secure cards, fresh start from Finger Hut, and so when I got out, my father gave me a truck. He gave me a truck. Here, you can have this paid for. Gave me a truck and paid the insurance up for 6 months. Unbeknownst to me at that time, that was my new plan. Even though I planned all these businesses in prison, that was my new plan. My time in the halfway house was up. I relocated here to Oxon Hill area. It was difficult at first. It was very challenging and very difficult for me. A lot of people wouldn't hire me because of my background, and the jobs that would hire me would only pay me $9 an hour starting out. Then I went to another staffing agency that gave me a $10 an hour job. Up until I got to MGM, the highest paying job I had was a $12 an hour job. I worked for Cisco Warehouse. Nothing against them, but I would never work there unless I have to. Don't misunderstand me. I wouldn't recommend nobody go there. Their pay scale is only $11 an hour, and I'm loading trucks, picking meat, and organizing things using the skills that I obtained while in the shipping and receiving clerk skills from Yazoo, Mississippi. I helped them organize the shipping and processing stuff coming in, and I was getting $11 an hour. You know, so I eventually signed up for MGM. Started as a steward, washing dishes, and 8 months I went from a steward. I did that for 8 months. Then I went to a porter, which was cleaning the stoves and everything after the restaurants closed. So I had to go in and clean all the ovens and the stoves and all that. So I was doing that for a couple months, and then Darpro got the contract there, and the store department recommended me to be the supervisor for that company to that company. So the company came and gave me that opportunity. That was how I got into the role that I have today. I've been there for 1.5 years now with that company. While working in that company, I went to looking for something to supplement my income, have a truck. So I was on Facebook actually. No one told me about propane taxi. I was on Facebook and seen the ad for propane taxi. Made $25, $30 an hour and delivered propane tanks. So I signed up, and a year later I'm still there. You know, it is very lucrative. So I continue to do that. A friend of mine that was in, and it's ironic because we're told as prisoners we cannot associate with other prisoners when we come out. But believe it or not, the close-knit people that I dealt with when I was in, the ones that kept me on the straight and narrow, we always maintain contact. I wouldn't admit to that to nobody else, but I'm gonna tell y'all, we maintain contact, and we always used each other for resources. If I had something going on, I would let them know so they can get involved in it. We kind of looked out for each other. We have like a family, so to speak. And the trash valet, my old cellie was the district manager for that, and he's the one who told me about the trash valet. Gave me a contract, then he gave me 2, 3 more contracts, and I started buying trucks, and I started, you know, subcontracting them out. Same thing with, I started using the trucks for the trash and subcontracting them out for the propane as well. That's how I got to where I was at today, as far as business-wise. But I now have a different perspective of the system. You asked me about the system. One of the questions was, how do I feel? Do I feel like I was treated fairly? That's kind of a hard question to answer. I don't think I was treated different than anybody else. I think that the rules were not broken to prosecute me. Yes, if I answered the question, yes, I was treated fairly. I committed some crimes, and I deserve to be punished for those crimes. In the process, I didn't like what was happening, but I can say now, looking back on it, yes, I was treated fairly. A lot of people disagree with that. I was treated fairly. I'll just leave it at that. It's the system. The relationship what is my opinion of the relationship with all the players involved inside of the courtroom? I want to tell you that they honestly feel that the prosecutors and the lawyers work together. You know, and that was my initial thoughts in the beginning, that the prosecutor and lawyers work together, and you might have heard this say, hey, the prosecutor may go, give me this one, I'll get this one here, a lesser sentence. That was my mindset at one time as well when I first went into the system. Hunt Sherrick and Brian Cornbrough were the two attorneys from the public defender's office that represented me, and they changed my perspective and opened my eyes to a lot of things. I don't feel that way now. I feel that everybody has a job to do, and the prosecutor's job is to uphold the law. The judge's job is to enforce the law, and the public defender's job is to do whatever they can to try to salvage the person's life, because when they get you, you've done something. You know, the chips are stacked against you, because the federal government does not just come and grab you and say, I'm just going to deal with this guy and arrest this guy. That doesn't happen. One of the other questions was, what was the decision that made me plead guilty? I went to trial, so technically I didn't plead guilty. But I took a post-trial agreement 4 years after being found guilty. I sat in the county jail for 4 years waiting on post-trial motions. I think it's Rule 33, and I forget what the other one is. Waiting on those motions to be heard. 924, again, I had 924C counts. I had ineffective assistance of counsel's issues where my lawyer told me, advised me that the most I would get is 45 years if I went to trial and lost. Again, my minimum was 115 years. So one of my arguments was, had I known the true exposure I was facing, I probably might have taken that 25-year, 30-year plea. That was the issue that actually got me to where I ended up getting the 25 years, because it was in writing. He wrote me a letter and actually saying that, so I did provide my new attorneys with that letter. They interviewed him, he admitted it. So what the government did was came at the last hour and said, hey, if you take this 25 years, proceed to sentencing on the 2 counts that you already found guilty of, we'll dismiss 27 of the 29 counts we found you guilty of. And that's how I ended up with 25 years. I think one of the other questions was, what is my overall opinion of the criminal justice system? I think that, of course, it's changed over time, changed tremendously over time, but I think the actual gist of it was something that was good, to protect the people, to try to be able to do whatever it has to do to rehabilitate some of the people that goes into the system. So I think it is overall it is something that's good, but it's only up for the person it's only up to the person that's in the system whether they get something out of the system or not. I would tell all prosecutors, I would tell all interns for prosecutors, do your job. You can't have emotions involved, because everybody's going to come with a sad story. You know, I'm a drug user. I come from a bad background, bad home, and all that. But still, that doesn't negate the fact that you committed some crimes. So I'm not saying just throw them away, but you have something that you have to do. So do it. You know, if it's done correctly, then and they really want to change, they'll change. You know, because 25 years is a long time. I've never seen myself really wanting to go into prison and get education and do what I did to prepare to come home. But you know, because of that sentence, is what caused me to do it. If you had given me 5 years, I wouldn't have done it. I'm gonna be honest with you. It would not have happened. Again, as you heard, I've done 17 months before in prison. It was just like hanging out in the neighborhood with the guys, because a lot of the guys I knew, because we all in the same circle, and I didn't take it serious. You know, I had a simple possession of cocaine charge out of Frederick, Maryland. I've done 15 months in the county jail. Didn't take it serious. But when the federal government gave me the 25 years, I knew it was serious then. You know, and I had to change. If I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in prison, I'm not going to say they, which could have happened based on my guidelines, I had to make some changes. Cameraman, I was the commissioners of the sports. They had me in the rec yard working. I worked in Unicor. I worked in the unit. So I was always active, and my mind never stopped growing. So that's how I got to the point where I am today. How did I get involved in the drug trade? That was one of the questions, as well as what are some of the things contributed to my decision to do so? I come from a good background. You know, I'm not the one that drug user, or my mom and dad was drug users and that. My father retired from the military. He was in the Army for 24 years. He retired from the military. My mother, she worked as well. She was a social worker. And I was raised by my grandparents. My grandmother social worker. My grandfather was a truck driver. I have family in influential positions today and back then in Miami, Florida. So I really had no reason to go to the drugs. I did it because I wanted to do it. I wanted what I wanted when I wanted it. I never went without no food. I never went without no clothes. And I tell my parents all the time that you did a great job. It was a decision I made. You know, I don't blame you at all for me going into the system. You know, just like I don't blame the system for me being in the system. I put myself there. So really, me wanting what I seen, the big cars, being from Miami, Florida, everybody, I ain't gonna say everybody, a lot of people were selling drugs and they have cars with loud music, the big rims, the big jewelry, the clothes, the girls, and I wanted some of those things. And so I made the decision to do what they were doing to get it. I knew it was wrong. I know it was a bad decision because I had, again, family members that were assisting me, trying to get me jobs within the city of Miami, and I was just rejecting it, doing what I wanted to do. So the factors that made me, had me assisting me in my decision making was, I'm not gonna say peer pressure, but I'm gonna say that wanting what I wanted when I wanted it. My incarceration impacted my family greatly. That was one of the questions. It impacted them greatly. I have a son that's 24 and I have a daughter that's 28, be 29 on the 17th of this month. Both of them grew up without a father. You know, I've done what I could when I was in prison. I was, you know, because I'm working and I can send things home, but I learned that you cannot substitute your presence with presence. And much as I would give them whatever they asked for, I couldn't give them what they really needed, which was a father. There's some direction, some discipline, some guidance. I commend all single mothers, especially their mothers, because they had to raise them children by themselves. But it turned their life upside down because they were incarcerated as well. Coming into the prisons, like, you know, here, not as bad here, you know, coming to the metal detectors. You know, some of them, they make you strip. They had to strip coming into prison. They would have to sit outside and wait on me to come outside for an hour because the guards call me whenever they wanted to call for the visitation. It was hard for my children to see me and then have to leave me in that environment. It was hard for me for them to see me and I have to watch them go in that environment. Definitely financially it affected them because it's an income that's outside of the house. Even though it was an illegal income, it was an income. So so everybody wants to see their family in a better position. So me being where I was, my family, you know, had to suffer. I suffered, you know, and they had to suffer. And I suffered more because I understood the pain I was causing them based on the dumb decisions I made after they were trying to assist me in a proper way. So, you know, it definitely affects the family. Again, I'm not saying that you should be lenient because of that. I'm just saying that that is the facts. When I first went in, me committing the crimes, me doing everything, and I understand that. We spoke about the misconceptions as far as they thinking everybody works together. The prosecutor and the judges work together. Not the judges, but the prosecutors and the lawyers work together. That is the biggest misconception because they feel like that y'all are friends, y'all hang together. When y'all get out, when the court's over, y'all are going to go play golf or going out to eat, and it's business as usual. And during those times, we had thought that y'all are, okay, what do you think about this guy, or what do you think about that? Might be fathers from the truth, because when I go home, I don't want to talk about work when I get home. But that's what we thought at times.
And James, I got a question. So where did that come from? Is that just was something in your head, or was that, you know, things you learned from others when you were dealing with them
When you say where did that come from,
That
what is
sense
that?
of, that sense of like the lawyers on both sides are in cahoots with each other, and they're not gonna be fair to
That's
you.
that is the perception of prisoners.
And do you know where that comes from? Did they talk about how they got that?
I would say that not knowing, not having enough information is what caused them to fabricate something in their own mind. If I don't have enough information and you don't give me all of the pieces of the puzzle and I have to come up with something, I'm going to come up with a conclusion based on my belief system, how far I have gone in life, which is a bad thing because I don't have all the information. So that being the case, we're looking to blame somebody when we're initially arrested. And dealing with my lawyer, I'm saying, hey, help me out. And my lawyer's saying, which is true, my hands are tied. You know, it's based on the guidelines, based on what the statutes and stuff, my hands are tied. I'm saying that I've done 25 years for 2 924C counts, that the police never seen me with those guns. They don't have the guns. They don't know where the guns are at, never knew where they were at. It was just solely a person said when I got this drugs from him, he had a gun on him. And that was the use for the carry. I also got 924C counts because I gave someone, which the law has changed since I was in the system, but the post-trial agreement I had prohibited me from filing any appeals or anything like that, so I was kind of locked in with that 25 years. But I got it for straw purchasing, giving someone some cash money, asking them to go in the gun store and purchase me some firearms with the money I gave them. Then when they came out of and gave me the guns, I gave them some crack cocaine as a reward for doing that. They were saying I was using the drugs in relation to a drug trafficking, right? Using the guns in relation, or however it goes, I forget the actual terminology. Later on down the line, that 10 years and 15 years I was in the system, that changed. They were saying that's not used. But because I had accepted a post-trial agreement where I couldn't challenge anything, I was just stuck with that 25-year sentence. So of course, again, that could have been a reason, a trigger, or what I feel like, hey, I got a reason to be bitter now, you know. But that wouldn't have changed nothing at all. Only thing would do would have me going the whole get shit from spot to spot. But to answer your question, I think they don't have enough information to be able to come from that.
I have one more question.
Go ahead. I'm open to all questions.
So you're like this, I mean, honestly, I've been practicing for more than 25 years. I haven't met anybody like you. You're this big success story. But the Bureau of Prisons doesn't turn out people like you on a regular basis. And so what's wrong with it? Why isn't it doing that?
As I was explaining to Lisa earlier, the Bureau of Prisons, the first problem is the guards, the people they hire. The people that's there, not all, because they got some beautiful people that, of course, that assisted me. But the majority of them have the mindset that you need to be punished. You're here to be punished. You're not here to get no help to do any better. You're here to be punished. So that's what they give off. That's the order they give off. Every time they see you, it's like they're disgusted with you. The second thing is they're taking away all the programs. When I first went into the system, I was arrested in August '94. That was right before the Zimmerman bill came out that took out all the college courses, the funding for all the college courses for people in the inside. So now, in order to accomplish what I accomplished, you have to really, really want it yourself. Because I worked in Unicor, which is a program which is looked down upon inside of the system. Unicor, if you work for Unicor, they're saying you're making products for the prison and you're keeping the prisons open. This is again a misconception that the prisoners have about something that they don't have a whole bunch of information on. Even though Unicor is a private entity, they're saying because of that I was able to pay for my own education. Again, you're working in Unicor, I was able to get a grant from Unicor to be able to do it. So I had to be creative in what I done. A lot of the staff members had to help me out, but no, that's not offered no more. They offer interpersonal skills, domestic violence, anger management, which is needed. Don't misunderstand me. They offer some vocational classes, but you got, for example, Atlanta had 2,500 inmates in there, but you only got spots for 20 people in the classroom. So how do they choose who gets to go there? Also sad to say that the lower you go, it's custody level, the lesser programs they have. All of the programs are in the maximum security prisons for the people who's not coming home at all or not coming home for a long period of time. You know, so it's not turning out that because it's not designed to turn out that's designed, or it getting to a point where it's about punishment now. And you do have people that want to help, but you have to, you know, show them that you really want to help by your actions. Because before me, there was thousands of people that came to us and say, hey, I want help, and they start helping it and they drop out of it. And that might have been one of the reasons why they were saying, take this stuff out of the education, you know, take the college courses out, because they would pay the college to come in and teach, and everybody would sign up, and then only 3 out of 20 people, only 3 would finish, and that was wasted money. So I guess I'm saying that there's no education. There's a lack of motivation from the staff that's there. There's a lack of motivation from the individuals that's there. And it's just, you hear, do your time. And it's said all the time, just do your time and then stop crying. That's what we were told a lot of times, do your time and stop crying. So that, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it does. Thank you.
BOP facilities were you in, and how did they differ? Like, were they very different in terms of the types of programs that they offered and the facilities that you were housed in, things like that?
A lot of the programs are based on, supposed to be based on your custody level. When you're going down, meaning going from a high to a minimum, you're supposed to be getting better programs in order to prepare you for your release. Atlanta had, when I first went to Atlanta, they had custodial maintenance. That's where I started my custodial maintenance at. And that was about it. That was the only program, a vocational program that they had. They had a bunch of other programs where you get certificates, but programs of substance that I can actually take home. That was the only one they had. Eventually they got electrician, and they got HVAC and electrician. They got that. But they did that when it became a medium, because they changed Atlanta from a maximum security prison to a medium security prison. In the system, they used to, this goes to what the question you asked, they used to have what they have, program participation transfers, where I can go to my case manager if I have I've been no trouble, have clear conduct, and I'm showing, I have an educational transcript that shows I have been programming. I can say I want to go to this institution for this reason, and they will put the transfer in, and 9 out of 10 I will get that transfer. That is, even though that is not in existence now, or when I was, they took it out when I was there, I was still able to utilize that because of the staff members that seen that I was sincere about the direction I was going in. So I would go to them and say, hey, I want to go to, well, Yazoo, they kicked me out of Atlanta because of my custody level. But when I got to Yazoo, staff actually helped me get to Ashland, Kentucky, because I went into the Alice Ellis books. I know some of y'all are familiar with that book. And it has everything that's offered in each institution throughout the BOP. And so I went and seen what would be interesting to me. Went to my case manager and said, I want to go to this institution for this reason. And because of the history I had of staying out of trouble, the history of working, the history of the programming, they got me there. They called and got me there. So that is how I got to Ashland. I went to Petersburg for the religious program. For that purpose, you can get it, they call it program transfer. You can get that just for that program, or the RDAP program. I don't know if you're familiar with that. The RDAP program, you have to go to a different institution, and every institution does not offer that program. So they will put you in for transfer for that program. You go there for that. If you drop out, you have to come back to your mother institution. If you complete it, then you get to stay. Those are the conditions of those type of programs for the small existence of them. So that is how I end up going from institution to institution, because I wanted to get a program here, get a program there, get a program there, and they assisted me in doing so.
Mr. Jones, it sounds like you obviously developed strong relationships with some of your fellow inmates, but with, you talk about the lack of motivation and the lack of spots available for these kinds of programs. Did what you were doing affect how you were able to interact? I mean, were people frustrated with you, or did you have to explain to them why you were choosing to do these things?
By me being in the system a while, and I started on the maximum security, and being a knucklehead first coming in, I kind of gained a reputation inside of the prison. So the prison system is small, and At the time I went to prison, there was only 7 maximum security prisons. So if you got in trouble, you're going to one of the 7. So everybody kind of knew everybody, or knew somebody that was in there. When I started doing what I was doing, I would say that I already had a reputation of being a knucklehead. So it was just me, okay, he's just going through a phase right now. In a couple weeks he's going to fall back off. He's going to be back out here playing basketball with us and cussing and running up and down the court and all that stuff there. Didn't happen. So yes, some people had resentment toward me because I wouldn't do the things that I used to do. And when I stopped doing whatever I was doing, you know, not proud of it, but I was involved in some illegal things, not illegal, but I'm gonna say bad things in prison, just like I was in the street when I first went in. And because of that, I knew everybody. Because me selling drugs, I've been pretty much everywhere on the East Coast selling drugs, and I knew people from those areas. So and everybody, like I said, we all drug dealers. Eventually, we all going to end up in the same place in jail. So I knew people from the street that were in. So I had a little bit of influence with people, and because of that, when I stepped away from all of that, they had no leisure on to get the things that they were able to get when I was there. So that brought resentment. But what I did do was, when I got a door open for me, I tried to open the door for them as well. But they didn't they didn't want it. So they couldn't say, hey, he just changed, he's not for us, he's not helping us. I'm going to help you, but you're going to help you in a different way. Particularly speaking, I remember when I was in Ashland, Kentucky. I went from, again, maximum security. They never had no sexual offenders in the maximum security prison. I never seen a sexual offender there. When I went to Yazoo, Mississippi, I went from, and there's very few at that time, because it's different today, that people that told. So inside of a maximum security prison, if you're there, it's a high probability you didn't tell. You have some that slipped through the cracks or whatever, got there for whatever reason, but they were there. So the mindset was different. When I left Atlanta and went to Yazoo, Mississippi, 60% of the compound were sex offenders, and 30% of the 40 that was left were people that cooperated with the government. I'm not opposed to that. Don't misunderstand me. I understand how the system works, but it was a culture shock to me. I literally didn't unpack my property for 2 months, and I was like, I can't stay here. I can't make it here. And I had a guy, sex offender, older guy, come and talk to me, and he said, if you can't make it here, you're not going to be able to make it in the street. You know, and that kind of changed my perspective of how I looked at things. So I took it upon myself. I'm going to hang with who I want to hang with, because I've always been the person to do not what I want to do, but what I see fit for me, what's good for me. And yes, I had a lot of friends that stopped talking to me. I had people stop hanging around me. I had people telling me I'm hanging around with weirdos, and I'm going crazy. I had a lot of things said about me. But in those institutions, after I was dealing with those people and seeing the amount of information that they had and the willingness to help people, I just kind of like pushed what you were in prison for to the side, because it ain't like we was going to hang out when we got out. We were there to, have a meeting of the minds. And when I started teaching classes, because I was teaching information, I was teaching financial analysis class and a credit class. I had those same people who they wouldn't interact with, come and be guest speakers to them in my class. And at first, someone would come to me and say, why you keep bringing them? And I had to explain to them, it's information. You're there for information. Brighten your mind, get the information. So a lot of people stopped talking to me. A lot of people stopped dealing with me, and a lot of them are still in jail, because they're not doing anything. A lot of them are coming home now. On my Facebook page asking me to call them, and I won't call them because they didn't want to deal with me when I was in. But a lot of people I do help, so yes, I did have some resistance from people from there, but I don't care. If I wanted to stay out of prison and I wanted to be a better father, be a better brother, be a better son, then I had to do what I had to do. And what they felt didn't matter to me.
Would be where you are now if you'd done 15 years? Like, was there a point where you were just doing more time, but you knew you were gonna make it?
As I said before, I think that if I would have not gotten what I got, I wouldn't be where I am today. You know, 25 years is a long time. But if you don't give me what you gave me, not you per se, but I don't get what I sentence I received, I'm going in and I'm going to treat it as a joke. It had to be something that actually like kind of grabbed me and shook me. I think that what did it for me was not the 25 years. I think what done it for me was the minimum guideline at 1,380 months. That was the realization that, hey, you're not supposed to see the street no more. They don't care if you see the street no more. You know, it was because of that made me fight harder to get my freedom. Once I got my freedom, fight even harder to get whatever I need to do to maintain my freedom. You know, so I never looked at it as if that this is too much. It's, you know, and that's something that I want to speak on later on, but it was an overkill. I never looked at it like that. My mindset was, as long as I'm here, every year I'm going to accomplish something. Either I'm going to save some money, either I'm going to obtain a certification, I'm going to obtain a degree or something. So, you know, I was just working toward that date because I knew it was coming. I went from possibly never having a date to having a date. You know, and I had some co-defendants, or you know, some buddies that had life sentences, and I had to get away from them. You know, back what you're saying, I had to get away from them because one guy I was glad to see him leave the prison because it's like a camaraderie, just like it is in everything. If me and you are real close and somebody bothers you, you know, it's kind of expected in prison for me to help you, which I'm going to help you. You know, but one guy, you know, like I said, good friend of mine, I know him ever since I was a kid. And he had a life sentence. I had 25 years. And he was living like he had a life sentence. Every day he's picking an argument. He's debating about something. And then when you get loud because you get excited about the debate, he wanted to pull his knife and wanted to tell you, come on, let's knife fight. You know, and I was glad to see him leave prison. You know, they just moved him in the middle of the night because he was always conflicting with the staff, writing them up about different things, and he wanted them to conform to his ways, and they wouldn't do it. So it was always a problem. I think that was the time that the most scariest part of my prison stint was when he was with me, not because of what I was going to get into, because of me, but because of what I would have had to do because of him, because we grew up together. He stayed at my house, I stayed at his house. So how do I go home and tell his mom, hey, I let them kill your son, and I'm standing right there? You know, so the Lord worked it out for me, you know, because they hadn't moved. You know, and I was glad to see him move. You know, so you know, I guess that's, you know, how they view it, how they look at it, and again, I don't care how they view it, how they look at it. Right now, I have some peace. I have a great family support, and great support from y'all. I definitely appreciate being an opportunity to do this. And I enjoy doing this. As I told you when I got the questions, I was kind of excited. You know, but I wanted to ask y'all a few questions if y'all didn't mind. At what point do you feel like it can possibly overkill? Because I have several people in prison that are doing similar things to what I'm doing, but they're never getting out. So do you think that there's a point where it's some overkill? The sentences are overkill?
Well, I think we're probably all in agreement that the law is going to change over those 924 seats. That stacking those things is going to potentially overkill. So I know they're going to change the law, and I don't exactly know what they're going to do, but that's certainly one area. You know, I mean, the drug laws have changed a little bit, so sentences are lower now than they used to be. And of course, the guidelines are no longer mandatory, which they used to be, and so the judges have some leeway to affect a different sentence when something looks like it's overkill. But you know, it's a hard call to make. You never know.
Yeah, but I also would say that in our office, and Lisa can attest to this because she's probably seen some of the 11C1C pleas that we put together. Sometimes we do look at it and we recognize that the sentences are draconian, and so the only way we can get out from under that, sometimes with the mandatory minimums, is we may not charge the case the same way we would have done, say, 5 years ago. we do sit down and make those decisions. We also try to come up with some creative ways to prevent people from getting 75, 100 years. And we've got a case that's about ready to go to trial next week or a week after next. And we've tried. We've been creative in terms of the plea that we've offered because this individual is looking at stacked 924Cs. And we've tried to at least try to get that message across that, you know, we think the punishment is fairly harsh, but, you know, if we go to trial, our hands are tied, and we do try to prevent that sometimes. So, but as David said, it's not an easy question all the time because, you know, you've got a community out there that has been in a lot of situations, been crying out and saying, you know, you got to get these people out of the neighborhood. You know, we can't even have our kids outside, you know, the playground. So it's a, you know, there's always some give and take, and we try to at least, you know, think about what's going on in the neighborhoods. You know, one of the problems we have here in Maryland is sort of what you talked about, is at the state level, the sentences are very light. And so when these folks come up here to the federal level, it's a huge rude awakening for them because, you know, whatever they did at the state level, you know, they should have said 18 months, 12 months or whatever, and all of a sudden they show up here at the federal level and now they're looking at, you know, 5 years, 8 years, you know, 12, 15. And so it's a lot of different things that go into it, but we are definitely mindful of the fact that some of these sentences are definitely pretty heavy, and they should not be as heavy as they are.
You know, a lot of the people that's inside, because I've done a lot of time in the maximum security prison, a lot of people that's there are never coming home. And when these questions were sent to me, you know, I emailed some of the gentlemen these questions, and I asked them, give me your opinion of these questions. And every one, I was telling Lisa coming in, every one of them told me they couldn't answer these questions because they were bitter. You know, but if you look at these guys' resumes and the things they have done in prison, you will be just as shocked as, or I'm not going to say shocked, I'm going to say you will be just as happy for them as you are for me. They have done 10 times more what I've done. You know, I have assisted them by taking paintings and different things to different organizations down in D.C. that they're donating. But these guys are painting paintings, making purses, donating different items and stuff to these organizations out here. They're even willing, and then I was telling Lisa this, I'm in process of trying to get formatting a non-profit because I want to do some mentoring. And one of the things I want to do, and all of these guys I'm telling you about are on board with this, is do some Skype mentoring, where they sit inside of the prison and the kids are in their neighborhoods who know them and have heard so much about them can actually sit down and watch them on the screen and interact with them, ask all the type of questions. Because all of them have the same answer, which is, this is not worth it. People ask me today, would I go back to the lifestyle that I lived when I was before? And I told them no. I said, when you look at it monetary wise, if you divide the amount of money I made by the amount of years that I've done, I made less than minimum wage. You know, so it doesn't add up. You know, but those guys are in there, you know, and there's nothing that you can do. Nothing that you can do. I understand that, but the laws are changing like you're saying, but they're not retroactive. So it does not help those guys that's in there. So they're still stuck with that. The 2 points, there was conditions and criteria you had to meet. In all laws that change, there's conditions and criteria you have to meet. And even with the 2 points, if you're a career offender, at some point it was kind of like flexible up in the air with the judge. You couldn't get the 2 points. You know, even though the drug amount, the statute, the threshold amount changed, they were still a career offender. So even though that amount does not, if you sentence him today, wouldn't equate for him to be a career offender, it didn't help him. You know, so now these guys are sitting there saying, you know, they're still bitter with the system because they're saying, hey, everybody's getting this around me that's coming in and getting the benefit that's coming in, and I'm not getting anything, and I've been in. You know, I'm not saying they don't deserve to be in, and they know they deserve to be in because, as I tell her and anybody that they're here, I deserve to be off the street. You know, I said that when I was in the courtroom, when she let me off, the judge terminated my probation. I deserve to be off the street. I knew I needed to be in jail. Not then, but as I got older and got mature, I realized I needed to be in jail. I realized that what happened to me needed to happen to me. or I wouldn't be who I am today. You know, today, you can't even come around me with no drugs and no gun. You know, back then, you couldn't come around me if you didn't have it. You know, so there was a big change, a big transformation within me. You know, and a lot of those guys feel that way, but they have no way of being heard. You know, and that was one of the reasons why I sent the questions, and also one of the reasons why we're coming up with trying to do the Skype mentor.
That's a great argument for federal parole to be reinstituted. I mean, I never practiced when there was federal parole. Did either of you?
No. Judge, I tend to. You know, her name is, I'll never forget, Irene M. Keeley, and she's out of Northern District of West Virginia. The prosecutor is Thomas Oliver Mucklow. He's retired. So I have to find, you know, I don't want to overstep any boundaries in trying to do that, especially considering the relationship me and him had. I don't want him to think that I'm trying to do anything against him, you know, so I have to, you know, possibly when I write the judge and let her know where I'm at, because I'm in the process of doing that now, and ask her, can she pass along a letter to him, and don't sell it, leave it open, so if she want to review it first, she can. That's what I'm presently working on, but I would like to go back and thank those people. And now that I'm on probation, I can go to Martinsburg, or I can go, because she's out of Clarksburg, so I can go there one day and be in the courtroom and you know, ask, can I say something or something? I don't know. Maybe you can help me with that. I don't know. You know, I mean, give me some ideas on how can I go about that, you know, because I have to be careful considering my background. You know,
I can tell you, Mr. Jones, no, I don't know the guy, but if he's anything like a lot of the people here in this room, it actually helps us to know that you've been rehabilitated. You know, that even though we may have been adversaries during the process, it can be a daunting thing to sort of see people constantly go, you know, out of the courtroom being let out martial shackles and not know that there is some life or there is something positive at the end of that. It definitely helps us to sort of see that part. One of the judges who was here, who's now retired, Judge Williams, used to bring back his offenders who had all successfully completed their period of supervised release. He would have a ceremony in the courtroom, and by happenstance, I happened to be in the courtroom that day, and I was about ready to leave, and the deputy clerk just simply mentioned to me that this ceremony was about ready to take place. And I sat there, and I will tell you, I was just as impressed. And in fact, I even asked the judge, can I say something to let these individuals know that I'm glad to see that they have been rehabilitated? Because as I said, you know, seeing it every day and all you see is these guys going back in shackles, sometimes it does have a impact on your view of humanity.
Opportunity for me to see who y'all are. You know, see that y'all do have emotions, y'all do have concerns, y'all are human just like everybody else. And that y'all get the opportunity to see that what y'all do, there is some rewards to what you do. It's not all bad, just everybody going to prison and just, you know, just being bitter and just all that stuff there. You know, so it definitely was the experience, and I told Lisa I was looking forward to it because of that. You know, and do know that I'm going to get on the phone and clear up some of these misconceptions that they have. So I might lose a few more friends, you know. You know, but I am going to do that, you know, because it's needed. You know, it's an unspoken myth that we are, like you said, adversaries. We are on two opposing teams, and we are fighting not for the same goal. Even though I've learned y'all are fighting for the same goal. That's what the 3553 factors, the sentencing factors, are trying to accomplish, to craft a sentence that helps me get to where I am. You know, so we are on, you know, fighting for the same goal. We just not seeing it that way at the time. You know, so I am going to let them know that and remind them of that. You know, I think I still have a little influence in the system, a little voice in the system. So I am going to tell them that. You know, but again, you know, if there are any more questions, we'll get them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jones. We really appreciate you coming in and sharing your story with us.
Awesome. Casey, you guys?
We all did, yeah.
It's a collaboration.
Yeah, it was collaborative.
This is when we do work together.
So this is what I seen every day. My family was saying, I don't want this in the neighborhood. How does it get in the neighborhood? It takes people like y'all to get them out of the neighborhood. And at the time, the person that's on the end of it that's getting the time is not going to like it. You know, but I understand now. You know, and I would, want you to continue to do what you're doing. You know, because it makes it a better place. You know, so, again, I'm going to let them know. Not that I can change a whole lot of them, but the ones that do listen, I'm going to let them know. You know, because they know I was coming here today. I lost 3 friends coming in here because of that. But you got about what?
Yeah, you got
That was good. Thanks for allowing me to come.
Sure, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. That was, oh my God.
Good.
So awesome.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Two little sentences where it's not going to register with these individuals versus the draconian stuff that we went through in the 90s and early 80s. I mean, that was ridiculous. But, so we're trying to figure out where's the middle ground.
I wonder if it has to do with brain development. And you said you went into stupid knucklehead,
Right.
right? I mean, you still had a 24-year-old brain.
Right.
Male brains don't develop until your late 20s.
That's what the women say.
Am I wrong? I don't think ours developed until the mid-20s either.
It might, you being generous with that age, I think it's a little bit older.
Maybe it is.
I tell people that it's not until a person in their late 20s that I personally feel that they're even slightly ready for that.
Right.
Because you think about when they go to college, they're in the early 20s. When they get out of college, I think you need some time at home to get some things that you didn't have while you were in college. Financial teaching amongst, as far as paying rent, get used to doing this, acclimate that to your routine, because you're not doing none of that all the way up until that point. So if they go out at 22, 23, you're missing a big part. This is why they're struggling. This is why they're bankruptcy. This is why they're always financial trouble. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. I should give you that as well.
I think that's why, because we're not prepared. I've heard a lot when I was growing up. I don't know if any of y'all may have heard. You get 18, you're getting out of here. I can't wait till you get 18. I'm not ready for the world at 18.
Yeah.
So that's what that is. But definitely I appreciate it.
All right.
Dave, you are on.